Welcome to El Paso Knives. Today I'm going to show you how to etch your name on a steel blade using a 9-volt battery, salt, and water. Hey guys, welcome to El Paso Knives. So today I'm going to do a short tutorial on basically how to etch a knife. And we're going to do that using nail polish, salt, water, a 9-volt battery, some alligator clips and wire, and of course we've got our knife steel. So I had a customer that requested 3 of these Mescalero blades, and he wanted his last name or family name etched on the blade itself. So what I've done is I have already profiled and put in all the bevels, did all the grinding. I've done all my maker's mark stamps. I've gone ahead and drilled the lanyard holes as well as the holes for the brass hardware that's going to hold the scales onto the blade. So the blade these blades have not been heat treated. They're still in their annealed state, meaning the steel is soft and has not been heat treated. That's going to allow us to etch much easier. If you try to do this on hardened steel, it's going to be a lot more difficult to etch. So again, this is primarily for steel that is annealed and is in a pre-heat treated state. So in order to do our etching, you can use any type of nail polish. Prefer not to use gel. Try to go for an actual polish. This is just cheap leftovers that my wife's not using. She doesn't know I have it. She probably won't even notice I do. So anyhow, get yourself some nail polish from somewhere, and you'll need some salt. Just table salt's fine, doesn't matter if it's iodine or not. Get some water. Make sure you've got a 9-volt battery. Here I've got a package of 2. These are just simple Walmart cheap batteries. And then I've got 2 sets of alligator clips on wire. They're probably about 8 inches in length. So I've got 2 sets so that I can connect one to the positive and one to the negative. And then I've got the knife steel that I'm going to etch on. So what you want to do first is you want to prep your blades. I've already got them all profiled, all the grindings completed. And so I'm at a point right now where these blades can go into heat treatment. But before I do that, I want to make sure that I do the etching so that when it goes into the heat treatment, the carbon that builds onto the blade is going to enhance the etching itself, and it'll look really nice if you can etch it before you heat treat. So what I've done is I've cleaned all the blades with acetone to make sure that there's no oils or there's no residue. That'll help the nail polish to adhere to the blade, and when we let it dry, it's not going to flake off or peel off once we go into the actual etching. So the family name that's going to be engraved, that's going to be etched onto the steel, is Varela, V-A-R-E-L-A. And I'm just going to freehand that using the brush that comes with the nail polish itself to keep it very simple. So I'm going to freehand this completely. So there's the initial blade that I've done, and I'm going to replicate this onto the second blade. One thing you do not want to do is put too much nail polish on it that it's dripping, so you want to be careful to just dip that brush just enough to to be able to write at least one letter. So there's the second blade. Let's get our last third blade. So now that we've applied our fingernail polish onto the steel, it's important that we let it thoroughly dry. Otherwise it's going to smudge when you try to apply the salt water electricity solution onto the blade. So we're gonna take a little break here and let it dry up so that it's completely hardened before we move on to the next step. Proceeding to our next step, 2 additional items you're going to want to obtain is a small container to be able to put your salt water solution in, and then some Q-tips, which are going to serve as essentially our scribing tool. You're then going to want to add some salt into your container. That's about 2 teaspoons or so. Next, you're going to pour some water into your container that has the salt. You're going to create a salt water solution, so you want to let that salt dissolve in there for a few minutes. Now we're going to take our blade, we're going to grab 1 set of alligator clips, and we are going to clamp 1 set. So I'm going to go ahead and unravel each of these. So we're going to clamp 1 set onto our blade, and then 1 is going to go onto our Q-tip. So this is going to be my positive. So your positive clip is you're going to want to attach it to your blade. So positive to steel. And the opposite end of this alligator clip is going to get attached to the positive on the battery. So I'm not going to do that quite yet. So I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to grab our second set of alligator clips, and I'm going to attach this to the end of my Q-tip, just like so. So this is the negative side. This is going to connect to the negative post on the battery. So the easiest way to remember this is, the negative on a battery is going to show the negative sign, or a bar. And so think of the Q-tip as the negative sign. So Q-tip to negative, blade or steel to positive, and that's going to get connected to the positive post on our battery. So let's go ahead and set that up. I'm going to place my Q-tip in the salt water solution. I'm going to attach my negative clamp to the negative side of our 9-volt battery. I'm going to attach positive to positive. I'm going to set that down. And what I'm going to do is rearrange my workspace here so that the battery is not interrupted by my hands. So I've got my battery here, got my negative terminal here with my Q-tip, and I'm letting that Q-tip soak, and then I've got my positive attached to my positive terminal. So what you want to do next is, once you've got that salt water solution built up, you can go ahead and start applying the Q-tip onto the steel around the fingernail polish, and you'll start seeing some bubbling, and you'll start seeing some black material coming off the steel, which is going to indicate to us that we are removing steel. So I'm basically going around each letter, letting the water build up, and that's what's going to get removed. You want to make sure you've got good connectivity electrical flow. Now I'm starting to see the bubbling. I'm going to try to zoom in here so you can see. You can see the water turning darker. So you want to try to stay near your fingernail polish areas because you want to remove the steel around it. So you want to stray too far away from your letters. You'll start seeing some carbon getting removed, or carbon buildup, and that's from the steel. So I'm basically covering, going around each letter. You just continue until each letter has been etched. This process can take, depending on how many letters, it's going to take you at least 20 minutes or so to do. Now as you're etching, you're going to notice there are some organic fumes. So you want to make sure you do this in a well-ventilated area. It's a good way to make a maker's mark if you're a knife maker. So now I'm just going to go over each letter. I want to make sure that I've got a good etching, because once you remove the fingernail polish, that's it. You want to make sure you take your time. Still got good sizzling. Okay, I'm pretty content that the etching has taken place, proper etching. So I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to grab a paper towel and just wipe the surface of the blade. See all this black gunk. Now, before you remove the fingernail polish, one way to determine how good your stencil is or how good your etching went is you can actually take your fingernail and you can feel the steel where it etched. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take some acetone in the paper towel we just used, and I'm going to clean off the fingernail polish to see how the etching went. And there you go. It is etched. I can feel it. And what you can do is you can take some light sandpaper and just kind of go over it to check your work. So you can see the etching here, how that came out. Now again, this is not heat treated. When you heat treat it, you're going to have a layer of carbon that's built up on the blade itself, and when you take it out, you may not see the name or the etch. That's okay, because when you go in to sand it, that carbon that builds up in the forge as part of your heat treatment, it's gonna essentially outline the letters very, very nicely. So as you sand away the carbon, you'll see the letters reappear, and then you'll see the dark areas in between each of the letters where essentially that carbon is built up on the blade, and it'll develop a really, really nice contrast, and will give your work a really nice rustic look. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and replicate this on my other two blades, and I'll show you the results of all three. Here are the three completed knives. They all look pretty similar. Didn't have any issues at all. Some troubleshooting tips is if the bubbling ceases on your Q-tip, you might want to check your connection. Another thing you may want to check is make sure that you've got enough salt water solution on your Q-tip. And then you may also want to check your battery, because battery is good for a few etches, and that's about it. It'll eventually run out of power, and you'll have to connect to a new battery. Now that I've completed these three knives that I've etched them, I can go ahead and heat treat them and complete the blades for the customer. I'm going to show you an alternate method for etching, which is the exact opposite of how I etched the knife blade. So instead of drawing out letters and then using our saltwater electric chemical reaction to eat around the nail polish, we're actually going to lay a layer of nail polish, and we're going to engrave into the nail polish and then use the etching solution to etch out a design. So what you want to do is first put down a layer of nail polish on your steel. You want to make sure you get a nice even layer, and you want to do it you want to do it in such a way that you have full coverage of the area that you want to etch into. So you want to lay down the nail polish in an area that's larger than your design. You don't want it overly thick. You just want to make sure you've got adequate coverage. Once you lay it down, then you go ahead and let it dry. Once your nail polish is dry, you can take a sharp object such as a needle and design your object or your letters or your logo onto the nail polish. So here I'm going to keep it simple, and let's do a happy face. So I'm just barely putting pressure, just enough to remove the nail polish now that it's hardened. Let's put in the eyes. Smile. And so once you've got your design made, we can actually use the etching solution to engrave into the steel. Let's do that now. Okay, so I've got my 9-volt battery connected to our alligator clips. I've got our positive connected to the steel, and I have my negative coming from my 9-volt battery connected to this Q-tip, which has already been dipped in our salt water solution. And now that we've already etched into the fingernail polish, I'm just going to start dabbing the solution over our logo. And I'm seeing some slight bubbles. Okay, and once you've done that for a few minutes, you see that you've created a chemical reaction with the steel and the solution. You can stop and grab your acetone and wipe off the nail polish, and you should see your design etched into the steel. So let's go ahead and clean this up. I'm going to disconnect everything. I'm going to grab some paper towel. I'm going to grab our acetone here. Grab a little bit of it onto our paper towel. And now I'm going to wipe it clean. And there you have it. We have etched our smiley face logo into the steel, and it's got some good depth with just a few minutes of holding our etching chemical solution and 9-volt battery current over the design. And so this is kind of another neat way to engrave your knives or your tools. And these are the completed knives. Once I've finished them off and put the scales on, you'll see these are walnut scales, leather braided lanyards with beads, and you can see the patina on the blades. A little piece of felt there. There's a good shot of the blades, and I've numbered each one of them. This is number 1. I hope this video helped you out. Please like and subscribe, and if you're not already a member, consider a membership to my channel, and please share with family and friends. And until the next video, take care and have a great day.